Hello, everyone. I have got the coolest people on the show today. You don't want to miss this episode. We've got Lindsey Hagen from Stept Studios. She's the executive producer there, and she's working on a really cool project. You'll want to know more about this. And we also have Derek Fetzer, who is the co-founder of CaringCrowd there at Johnson & Johnson. So stick around. Don't miss this one.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
This episode is made possible via the support of our sponsors, including Johnson & Johnson's CaringCrowd. Derek, Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Lindsay, we're thrilled to have you here. Tell us a little bit about this project you're working on CaringCrowd.
Sure. So I partnered with CaringCrowd on a film project taking place in Ecuador, and the whole purpose of the project was to create awareness about the lack of resources for people with disabilities. In this case, it was victims of amputation who had a lack of resources in Ecuador. And the whole point of the film that we were producing was to send a team of athletes on an expedition up Cayambe, which is the third tallest volcano in Ecuador. And we wanted to show what they were physically and mentally capable of and really shift the perception of disability in country in Ecuador.
It's a brilliant effort that you've got underway there. Tell us a little bit about why you chose this project.
Yeah, so my background actually comes from the adaptive space. I did a lot of adaptive recreation. I was director of partnerships at Paradox Sport, which is a nonprofit based in Boulder, Colorado. And they've actually created a credential system for climbing gyms all over the US and are giving them the tools and teaching them the curriculum so that they can facilitate adaptive climbers in their gyms. So I come from a background working with adaptive athletes. From that, I went into PR and media, and I'm now executive producer at Stept Studios. So I took that love for the outdoors and creating accessibility to the outdoors and translated it through film.
Yeah, that's really inspiring, Lindsay. Derek, why did this project appeal to you and your team there at CaringCrowd?
Well, I think all of the projects appeal to us, so we're always happy. But I thought this was a fairly unique one in that it wasn't as typical as we might have seen, right? This is about a film project, but in the public health space. And so with that, the idea behind this particular film was to help inspire and empower other amputees in Latin America, many of them are suffering from a lack of resources, and really it had a positive message, so not only to help them, but also to go forward and help others understand the context and their situation, empathize, and hopefully reach out and connect with them and help them out.
Well, clearly you're making great progress, Lindsay. As we record this, I think you're almost 90% of the way to the goal, right?
Yeah, so we actually were able to go and produce this film about 6 months ago, and thanks to CaringCrowd, that was the remainder of the funding that we needed to bring in order to fund the film project. So CaringCrowd was kind of our last saving grace, and I reached out and we were able to pull in the funding we needed to send our entire production team over to Ecuador, and it came down to the wire. I think it was within 2 days of sending our team that we were able to secure the funding through donation, through CaringCrowd's foundation, and it really was a game changer for us.
And can I ask a question here to Lindsay? Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about Chad Jukes? Because I thought that was such a compelling story in and of itself.
Sure. So Chad is a good friend of mine. I met him while I was working at Paradox Sports. That's that adaptive climbing nonprofit I mentioned earlier. And Chad is one of their athletes. Chad actually taught me how to ice climb in Colorado, and he's a right leg amputee, and he lost his leg while serving over in Iraq. Since returning from Iraq, he used his disability as a reason to reinvent himself. So he actually became a mountaineer after he lost his leg while serving. And from that point, his life just took off, and he totally excelled. He stepped up to the bar, and he was one of the first amputee veterans to summit Everest.
That's incredible.
Wow. So you say he summited Everest after he had lost his leg?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. That's so inspiring. You know, we owe our veterans, all our veterans, such a great debt of gratitude, but especially those who have suffered so much. And boy, what an inspiration. What an inspiration. That's great. Lindsay, did you join the film crew on the trip to Ecuador?
I did. We were down there for 10 days. And I love playing in the outdoors. I love the mountains. I live in Boulder, Colorado. The mountains are in my backyard, but not mountains that are at 17,000 plus feet. So for our entire film crew, including myself, it was a huge undertaking. We knew we had the passion. We knew we were fit, but the technical skills were definitely up in the air, and I think we surprised ourselves.
Tell us a little bit more about the experience of being down there.
Sure. So I have a lot of experience traveling through Latin America. So in that sense, I mean, Ecuador was so culturally rich. The people were so kind and embracing, and the local community that we worked with, one of our main characters, Kathy Pico, who was also an amputee, she lost her leg through her battle with cancer. She was so heartfelt and just warm presence to be around, and the local community was absolutely amazing. The mountains were beautiful, the terrain was magnificent, and the elements were really really interesting to overcome. We faced some extreme weather, and I will tell you, life at 17,000 feet, even at 15,000 feet, is something else. Yeah.
I, like you, I live close to the mountains, and I can appreciate how, you get up there. Oh, yeah. Lindsay, how did your experience with the amputees affect you?
I was really taken back by the camaraderie that they had for one another, and the compassion they had for one another by having this shared experience that I think as an outsider you interpret as a really horrible misfortune or an inconvenience. But what was eye-opening for me was that they actually found a lot of joy and happiness and community through their shared amputation.
Well, Derek, you've had an extraordinary career, and you've now been, leading CaringCrowd for years. What's the most important lesson you've learned about crowdfunding for global health issues?
Yeah, I think it's the personal connection, right? I think in a world where we're over communicated and saturated with communications, actual connection, human connection is becoming actually more difficult. And I think that's where crowdfunding is coming into play. It's to allow people, provide a platform for people to connect on things that matter to them. And so here we have Lindsay and her crew connecting on something that's important to them, reaching out to their social networks who obviously empathize with what they're doing, and hopefully expand that network of connections, right? And keep it personal, right? I mean, this is all personal.
That's terrific. Lindsay, what about you? As you've been doing this crowdfunding effort, what's the most important lesson you found in crowdfunding here?
Yeah, I think to speak to Derek's point, this project was driven with the objective of compassion and creating a universal understanding and connectedness by sharing these stories that might appear very foreign and distant and bringing them to the public sphere. And I think crowdfunding totally relays that same messaging. You're taking something that might be very foreign and abstract, and you're putting it in your audience's face, and you're having that emotional connection with your audience, in this case, the crowdfunders. And it was the perfect way to just reinforce our messaging with the film, and the engagement through the funders just, that spoke for itself. This was not a difficult project to fund, and that's because of all the people who put their passion and compassion into it.
Derek, why is the work of CaringCrowd so important to you?
Oh, because I've seen personally these great nonprofits working at the grassroots level, they do a phenomenal job, and they really they don't have the marketing power behind them. They don't have the technology. They're doing a lot of good with, right there, and they need help. And that's what we're here to do. We're trying to help them out, let communities come together and provide a vehicle so that can be done easily, readily and expediently.
Lindsay, why did you choose CaringCrowd?
So I saw an issue at hand, and the issue was that 80% of adaptive athletes live in, or 80% of amputees live in the developing world, and only 2% had access to proper health care. So when I discovered CaringCrowd and their initiative to support public health, it seemed like a no-brainer, and it really was the perfect match. They were already speaking the same language. Their empathy and their focus was completely in line with this project, and they really supported me in the initiative. And now that support is, carried on beyond just the making of the film, but now the distribution of the film through festivals. And ROMP, the Range of Motion Project, who's a nonprofit we partnered with, has been using this film as an asset to create more awareness for years to come.
And I know there's a lot more in the works, so we'll be seeing Lindsay more often.
Oh, good. I love that. I love that. Derek, what's your superpower?
I think we spoke about that at some point. I think we share the same one, perseverance. and you preempted me, because I was actually going to ask that question of you, trying to get that one in before you asked it of me.
Good memory, good memory. Lindsay, what's yours?
I think recognizing that people are people at the end of the day, and behind every business, behind every career, and job title, we're all people, and we're emotionally driven, and we all feel the same emotions to some degree, and you can always relate to someone first before you can draw differences.
I love the way you humanize people. One of the great problems of our day is, in fact, our tendency to dehumanize people that don't agree with us or don't look like us or whatever. So,
if I might say, I think Lindsay's very empathetic. I mean, she has a lot of empathy. If I were to summarize her superpower, that's what I would say.
Oh, that's great. Well, Lindsay, will you take just a minute before we wrap up and tell everyone how they can find your campaign on CaringCrowd and donate to it before time runs out?
Sure. So I would just Google, what was it? La Cumbre and CaringCrowd. That should come up. That's the name of the project. You can also look up La Cumbre and REI. They were one of the brands that also came on to support the film. And you can find it on YouTube.
Fantastic. Well, Lindsay, thank you very much for being with us today. We wish you every success in completing this project and in all of the other great work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All righty.
Thanks, Devin. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's do some good.
Let's do it.
At CaringCrowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on CaringCrowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com.